But he was born in November, and you got to New York at the 1st of May. I mean,
Yeah.
like, okay.
You done your arithmetic, huh?
I always knew there was something wrong with him. I always
What, dengue
Well, is he
fever?
Dengue fever.
Is he seasick?
When did you get dengue fever? What is it?
Oh, and when we were in Colombo, it's carried by mosquitoes, and it's a terrific. They call it break bones fever, because you just feel awful all over, and the head is so tight you just feel as if it's going to burst.
Oh.
It just goes. Pressure is terrific, and my case was a light case, so I don't know. It's no wonder that people died of it. Very few. Really, had a good case of dengue fever would live through it. It was just awful. Oh,
The Norwegian ship you were on, do you remember what route it took? It didn't straddle the equator, did it? Did it go south?
went south into the Roaring Forties, south from Australia, clear south to
Oh, you
the
did
coast
say
of
the
South
Roaring
America, and then up the coast of South America.
Oh,
the Panama
so avoided
Canal.
all the islands and stuff.
Yeah,
Forties. More than that, it avoided the Japanese occupation forces, which at that time were taking over the Pacific.
oh yeah,
Now,
yeah.
when another ship
That's
came
why
in-
we went south, just to keep away from all shipping. And so we did see one ship in the distance one day, and we were given an alarm, and we had to put on our safety equipment and all that sort of stuff, just to be
Did the
ready.
ship turn when you saw the other ship?
I don't remember that, but it was just like a haze in the distance. That's all it was. Never knew what kind of ship it was. What?
Was there any radio communications?
Oh yeah,
Weather
but
bulletins?
I didn't use them. As far as I know, they didn't use them all the time we were out in the Pacific, that I know of. I don't think they did. Just kept going. Wish I could remember the name of that captain. He was so good. He even cleared one of the I'm going to say go down, one of the places where you carry freight. What do you call that?
Hold.
A hold. Hold.
Yeah.
Hold.
Yeah. And he cleared one of those and filled it with water, so we had a swimming pool. Oh, he was great. Yeah.
They're probably happy to have the company.
Huh?
They're probably happy to have some company. if
Oh,
they're used
probably
to-
so. Yeah. But that was fun. But it was a very comfortable trip. Even in the Roaring Forties, I thought I got down there. I thought, oh boy, I'm going to be seasick, but I wasn't, because the ship would just ride like this over the wave, like this and down and that way, and it wasn't.
Wow.
It was a smooth zoop.
Now, when you came through the canal, was it a straight shot across the Gulf, or did you have to do southern maneuvers and do island hopping again? The U-boats were quite active from 1941
Well,
to
it was
44.
after. Apparently, it was after. This was in May, so it was after the U-boats had been active along the eastern coast. But we came, as I say, we came up with a convoy because they were not sure.
So they
And that-
convoyed all the way from the canal.
Yeah, from the
across.
canal right up to New York. There was didn't encounter anything.
Do you remember how many ships were in the convoy?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Was it, do you remember the escort ships? Could you see
No,
them at all?
I have no idea what they were.
But you were lights out at night, right? At night, you had to keep
Yeah,
the blackout going
yeah,
up the coast.
There are black and white photographs that we found, some negatives that had been hidden away in a closet. And I had copies of them made, and there are photographs of them on the ship, on the Norwegian ship. And there's a picture also of the captain, and it's possible that we could identify him somehow.
If he has he might even have a badge on there or something.
Or if you knew the name of the ship, you can trace back through the ship's logs to find out who was
Yeah.
the captain at that time.
If it was Norwegian registry, there'd be
Yeah.
the log in Norway.
Flying Cloud or something like that.
When you got to New York, you said Dad was assigned to New Orleans, but I don't remember him ever going to New Orleans. What happened?
Oh, yeah.
He was.
Yeah, he had a month's leave here before he had to report down to New Orleans. And we went down there. We lived there of course, this was before you were born, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then we left there, why, I didn't tell you all about this. Then Dad got, from New Orleans, he went to, he was assigned to the Concord. And so I came up home to South Hadley to stay. But Peg, my sister-in-law, Aunt Peg, decided that was no place for me because if I had to get to the hospital in a hurry, there was no one to drive me. My father wasn't driving at that time, and Mama wasn't too well, and so forth, so on. And I should go to Bridgeport and be there, which is what I did. So you were born in the Bridgeport Hospital.
Well, what was Dad doing in New Orleans? Do you remember where he was assigned to? That's an unusual posting for a radio communicator.
Well, it had something to do with communications. There was a regular base there, a naval base, and there was housing. And he thought he was going to be staying there, and we'd already contracted for a house in that area when he suddenly got orders to go to the Concord. You get things all set up, and all of a sudden all your plans are changed.
Yeah, USS Concord.
So he was on the spore paper until the end of the war.
The Concord.
The Concord.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Concord was fired the last shot of the war in the Pacific.
Huh.
That's what I saw.
And
Yeah.
his, while he was in the Pacific, he was the photographer.
That's right.
And all of his campaigns are listed in the military records that we have here. And the campaigns, the occupation of this island and that island, I don't remember the names of the islands, but they're in there. And a lot of black and white pictures came from that. And also, there's a brochure from 1945 when the Concord went back to Concord, Massachusetts. And there was a big celebration. And I think that probably the pictures that are in that brochure were taken by Dad.
Radio operators stood special duty. They could not be assigned regular watches on board ship. They stood communication watches, which is still the same to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between their duties is they were communications, period, and they couldn't be assigned to anything else. So quite often they were used for special jobs that you just didn't have enough crew for, like photographer.
And so they flew from their base there in Alaska to the Aleutian Islands to northern Japan, did bombing, came back, and Dad was photographing that. I don't know that there are any photographs of that, of bombing, but that's what that ship did.
There are a lot of torpedo photographs.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mom, going back, you said you wanted to say something about China?
Oh,
Something more about China?
I can't.
You were thinking of something that you wanted to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was now, but in the letters I came across a lot of details I'd forgotten, and of course that didn't come back to me even now.
Okay, well, we do have the letters.
yeah, there was at one point you said I forgot, and I think it was when you were just talking about the girl doing the walk, the 30 miles on foot with the girls. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
And also, you hadn't realized that the reason they left was because his orders were being changed.
Right.
we always thought he had to come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of New Orleans before.
I think everybody thought you had to leave just because they were
Of the
trying to
war.
get everybody out.
Oh, no, not as far as we were concerned. No.
And take things with you? I mean, how much of your did you leave lots behind?
Oh, yes. Left all my nice Chinese lacquerware. Oh,
Mm.
and it had a lovely, well, the council gave us for a wedding present these finger bowls. We always used finger bowls in China. Lacquer, black lacquer, and gold lined. Oh, they were beautiful. Oh, had to leave those. Packed up a lot of things like that and left them in a warehouse, which they called a go down there. Well, of course, as soon as the Japanese got in there, they just cleaned out everything, I'm sure.
Never got it.
And I had not a bookcase, but what would you call it? An open thing, something similar to
An
that.
armoire kind of thing? Or?
No, a thing like that,
Yeah.
or
Mm.
similar to that. That was decorated with, well, here I go again. Inlaid with this beautiful Chinese stuff. It was a beautiful piece. And that was one thing I wanted to get home, but couldn't. Couldn't take anything like that. No.
Was it because there was no transportation?
Yeah, that's it. You just transportation was so limited, and anything was so limited. So we just took what we needed for clothes and immediate food, so we had something to eat on the way. I can remember we pulled a bacon, and I remember making, and we could make our own peanut butter, of course, lots of peanuts.
Ooh.
So I remember making peanut butter and bacon stuff that we used for sandwich fillings. And could always get bread anywhere. And I had a lot of that with us. And I could have makings of cornmeal mush, because
They
you could
had
get a whole
corn.
cornmeal.
Hmm.
And we had that. We could have it for breakfast and so forth. And up to Nanping, from Buchout to Nanping, our first stop, we had our cook with us. You'd always have to travel with some kind of a servant, or you were just not with it, you know. But they had to, because the servant had to do the buying,
Oh,
and he would do the
yeah,
cooking
yeah.
and things like that. So, but when we left Nanping, on our way to Chongqing, we didn't have anything like that. We just made use of places where we stopped. The consul, however, had his servant with him. I wonder now if Ed Rice, he was the consul, if he's still living. Be interesting. I could probably write the State Department and find
I
out.
know where he retired to. And
I went to school with his son.
Ed Rice's son?
Yeah, Tom Rice up in Amherst. You don't remember that? Or his nephew, either his son or
Nephew. No, I didn't realize it was his relative. Oh,
we
I'll be
established
darned.
that.
I remember Tom Rice. Interesting. These things didn't sink into me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
You know, they sink in now, but they get in so deep I can't get them out.
When you took the DC-3, where did, over the hump, where did you pick that up? It was a DC-3.
In Chongqing,
In Chongqing. It was a DC-3, wasn't it?
I think so. It was a Chinese pilot. His name, he was a well-known Chinese pilot. And he spoke English. He was a good guy. I think his name was Wong. I don't know what else. But then millions of Chinese were named Wong. And the plane was crowded with the Chinese. And when the Chinese travel, they have their little suitcase or whatever, but they put on all the clothing they can possibly put on.
Layer.
One layer after another, all their Yishangs, one on top of the other, so they're like this. Oh dear.
Were you the only American on the plane?
Yes, I was the only American. Yeah. Didn't bother me one bit. And we were all sick together. Oh, gosh. We went over that 20,000 some feet.
Yeah.
With no oxygen.
No oxygen, right
Ah.
up and over it.
Mm-hmm.
Were there other planes at this airfield, do you remember?
Well, there was transportation all the time between India and China.
Mm.
But I couldn't tell you, Pete.
So Chongqing was really, it was a central airport for the region?
Yeah, and that's where the national government was. It had been shifted from Peking, Beijing to Chongqing.
So by that time, Peking had been taken by the Japanese.
Oh, the Japanese were in there, yeah, that was all, yeah.
Was there much British presence?
A lot. Mm-hmm.
Were they, in other words, when you were leaving, were they traveling with you? Had they been?
No, they weren't at that time. There in Buchout, the British had charge of the post office, that sort of thing, and what they called the salt gabelle. The salt gabelle was, I'm not sure just what it was. It wasn't only salt, but it was very important. And there were a lot of British people there. They were connected with that. Besides the British missionaries, we knew. And Bill was well acquainted with, Dad was well acquainted with the British missionaries and the Catholic priests. And they were the ones who gave us that beautiful white linen table set, placemats in the runner, with that beautiful open work, which the Chinese ladies had made.
You had mentioned once that you'd run into General Stilwell. Did you?
Yeah, in Chongqing. Dad's office was clear up on the top story of the embassy, and to get there you have to go down the hill from where we lived and then up the hill to the embassy, and then climb these 4 or 5 flights to the radio room. And I was going up one day. I had to bring something to Bill, and who should come down, bounding down the stairs, but this long, lanky guy who was General Stilwell. And he excused himself, and I said, it's okay, and went on by him. It was the only time I saw him. But was he long and lanky? Oh, my. Skipping 2 or 3 steps at a time down the stairs. Forgot that.
Were there any other foreign missions that would come through in and out? If Chongqing was the regional provisional capital, for instance, neutrals like Norwegians or Russians or other embassy or military personnel come through?
I don't know, Pete, really. I know there were a lot of people there, and anyone that had anything to do with the Chinese government would go through Chongqing. But I wouldn't know. And in fact, maybe Dad knew more, but if he did, he wouldn't tell me. Just as well not to have information, so that at that time anyway, you were supposed to be ignorant of what was going on.
Were you glad to get out of there when you finally?
What?
Were you glad to leave when you finally left? Did things
Oh,
heated up
yes.
so much?
Yeah, I really was. And we found out afterwards that Bill's mother had gotten word that he was missing in action, because he was still on that roster of the ship that went down in the Philippines. All the time he was in Buchout. And when Pearl Harbor was attacked, then that ship was sunk. What was the name of the ship?
The first ship he was on was McLeish.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. It was oh, Ed, help me out. One of the small things.
Destroyers.
A destroyer in the bay there. The bay in the Philippines. Now, what was that called?
Manila?
You were in there, Pete.
Yeah, it wasn't Manila
No.
Bay. It was down by
Subic Bay.
Subic.
Subic.
Bay.
Yeah. That's where this was. where this
Been in
was
Pine Heights.
stationed, and he was on that ship, and I can't think of the name of it.
So he was
And they
in a
just
long
kept him
boat.
on the roster even when he was sent to
China.
Buchout.
So his mother thought he was missing in
Yeah.
action.
So she called Boston to find out about things. My mother called the State Department to find out where we were. And she never knew
Oh.
until after we'd left China.
That you were on your.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So it must have been kind of rough times for
Them.
my mother
yeah.
and for Dad's mother too. Yeah, at that time.
The military must have known he was alive because they were sending you places.
Oh yes,
They
yeah.
just didn't. They kept it a secret, sort of.
Well, if they had contacted the military, maybe
Right.
they wouldn't have. They would have maybe given some information. He was
alive.
alive, but not where.
Right.
Sometimes
The
right
Mindanao.
hand on the left hand.
The Mindanao.
The
That's
Mindanao.
it. Yes, thank you.
Commended this date by letter by Mr. Robert S. Ward,
Ward.
American Council,
Bob
Fuchao,
Ward.
China, for excellent performance of duty and fine conduct while radioman in charge of portable radio station, Fuchao, China.
Yep.
And during the.
It was Bob Ward.
Yeah.
But Ed Rice came in as consul after about a year that I was there.
Was retained as temporary ADV period to radio electrician.
Temporary advisor.
Yeah. So he was technically in Mindanao, but he was in Fuchao.
Yeah.
Well, what they did, because radio operators were so scarce, he was apparently the emergency backup. If equipment failed or anything, he would be the one that they would call to repair it. What, was he on the maintenance of the river gunboats at the time? Did he ever do anything with them?
No. No.
I know he was the major communication link for the gunboats. Did he ever mention that?
Never mentioned it.
See, he probably didn't talk about it.
I
He
probably
was
in
will
that.
find that in his journals that he kept and not found yet.
Maybe, but a lot of stuff, he wouldn't write down.
Mhm.
Now, in this journal, there's several pages that are torn out that he burned because
Ooh.
of the information in them. One was the fact that we were married.
Yeah.
But I don't know what other information.
The other one might have been when the 3 gunboats went down on the mouth of the Yellow River, and I can't remember their names.
It could
But
be.
he had received a
No.
communication that he said he had passed on but not recorded,
Yeah.
because that was an act of war.
And one of the crew of one of those boats, or maybe several of them, were up there in Chungking.
Hmm.
I can't tell you which one. Well, which one is the one they made a movie about?
Sand Pebbles.
Huh?
San Pablo, Sand Pebbles.
Yeah, Sand Pebbles. I think they were the crew of the Sand Pebbles. I'm pretty sure. They went up there in Chungking. Now here again, it goes my head, I'll have to ask Dad about that.
Yes.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah.
these things come out and I think,
Yeah.
well, Dad would remember that.
Yeah.
But I'm very sure that some of that crew were there. And we stayed in the crew's headquarters because there was no place for us in the library. Dad and I had cots and things, and finally we got a place. Commanding officer said we better get out of there. So,
He was afraid they'd send you home if they found out you were married.
yeah. Well, ordinarily, under the circumstances then, you would ask permission of your commanding officer, talk this all over and so forth. Well, there was no commanding officer around there to ask, so we just went ahead regardless.
Yeah.
The
Nowadays,
commanding officer was Ed Rice, the consul.
Right.
Going back a few years ago, you had said that you had stopped in Japan on the way over.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, that was, let's see, the ship went into Yokohama, and the purser on the ship, the guy that was taking a fancy to me for some reason or other, and he was kind of nice.
Bob.
Took
You were
me
single
into,
at the time. You hadn't met your.
It took me in. It took us. Took me into Tokyo, and I don't remember a lot. We had a meal somewhere, and we went down to watch some kind of a family celebration in which the kids on a stream where the kids had made boats and they were letting it float down the
Oh,
stream.
yes, the prayers for the ancestors.
That must have been it. We watched that.
The ship was an American ship, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
President Coolidge. It was of the presidential line. This was the President Coolidge.
How long were you in Yokohama then? Just
Oh,
a day?
just for that evening, one day.
Did you make any other stops on the way over?
We stopped at.
Where'd you go out of New York?
Yeah. No, I was out of San Francisco.
San Francisco. There's that.
And went to, of course, Hawaii. Was there a couple of days. Found out afterwards that the people with whom I was traveling, Dr. and Mrs. Beard, who were returning missionaries, were entertained by Mr. Atherton at his gardens where he raised what are these fancy flowers?
Orchids.
Or-
Orchids.